Welcome to HardScript.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I came home to silence that didn't belong to me. The kind that hums between walls after someone's been rehearsing lies. My wife, Hannah, was sitting on the couch, still in her work blazer, her phone face down beside a half-finished glass of wine. She didn't look up when I walked in. Just said it, calm, rehearsed. Let's pause the touch. I didn't ask what she meant. I knew. She'd been practicing distance for months, drip by drip, until affection felt like a privilege I had to earn. That night, I pressed stop instead. My name's Evan Reed. I'm 38, cybersecurity engineer at a firm in Chicago. My world runs on logic, encryption, and clean exits. Hannah's the opposite, PR director at a media company, fluent in smiles and subtext. She builds worlds out of perception. I build firewalls. We used to meet in the middle, her chaos, my calm. Somewhere along the way, the balance broke. The first signal came 2 months ago. She started having working breakfasts at Panera Bread with clients whose names I never heard twice. One morning, her reflection in the cafe window wasn't looking at her laptop. It was looking at someone sitting across from her, my colleague, Ryan. 29, emotional, charming, the kind of guy who apologizes with a grin and gets away with it. She didn't hide it. She wanted me to notice. That was the point. I didn't confront her. I went to Best Buy after work, bought a new laptop, and spent the evening transferring everything that mattered, finances, passwords, backup codes, on a fresh hardware. Not because I wanted proof of anything, because I was done living inside a compromised system. That night, she walked into my office doorway, still glowing from attention that wasn't mine. She asked if I was okay. I said I was updating my firewall. She smiled like it was a joke. It wasn't. When she fell asleep, I opened a folder called Rebuild. Inside it, 3 lines. Disconnect. Rewrite. Execute. In the morning, she kissed my cheek out of habit. I didn't kiss back. She left her coffee mug beside her iPhone, lipstick print fading into the rim. I unplugged the charger, shut down my old computer, and drove my Tesla out of the garage. No noise, no warning. She thought she was controlling the pause. She didn't realize I'd already deleted her from the script. The next morning, I woke before the alarm. The apartment felt weightless, like it had been evacuated overnight. Hannah's side of the bed was empty, sheets smooth. She'd slept in the guest room again, claiming she needed space to reset her energy. I brewed coffee, black, no conversation, and opened my new laptop. Fresh device, fresh network, no shared logins. The process felt surgical. Every account, every trace of connection between us, methodically unlinked. Not angry, just clean. At 8:45, she left for work, heels sharp against the hardwood. She didn't notice the subtle changes. The router light steady where it used to blink, the old computer gone from the desk, the joint email no longer syncing. By the time she walked out the door, our digital life had already been dismantled. That afternoon, I met Ryan at the office. He greeted me with that easy confidence people mistake for sincerity. He was presenting a proposal he didn't fully understand, quoting things I'd written weeks earlier. His voice carried too much energy, like someone performing for an audience that wasn't in the room. I realized who that audience was. During the meeting, I watched him pull out his phone twice. Quick glances, then small smiles he couldn't hide. I didn't need to see the name to know who it was. She wasn't subtle. Neither was he. I just nodded, took my notes, and when the meeting ended, told him his access to the beta server needed temporary restrictions for security maintenance. He thanked me without knowing I'd already pulled his permissions entirely. That evening, Hannah texted from Panera Bread, running late. Don't wait up. No period, no warmth. I looked at the message for a long moment, then deleted the thread. By midnight, every shared password, utilities, mortgage, streaming, had been replaced. Even HBO Max, the one she kept running in the background while she scrolled her phone, muted, pretending we were watching something together. Now the login read unauthorized. When I finally shut down the new system, the silence felt different. Not empty, secure. Hannah thought she was teaching me how to feel distance, but she'd only reminded me how to build walls that don't need to be guarded. The next morning, I wasn't her husband trying to understand her pause. I was the engineer who'd completed the shutdown sequence. On Friday, Hannah came home late. The scent of her perfume arrived before she did. the kind she only wore when she wanted to be noticed. She tossed her keys on the counter, opened a bottle of wine, and acted like the week hadn't happened. Her phone stayed face down, buzzing twice before she silenced it. I didn't look. I didn't need to. I'd already rerouted the household Wi-Fi through a private DNS. Every device in that apartment told a story, and hers was playing on loop. The timestamps, the patterns, the connections, they were all right there, predictable, ordinary. She talked about a networking mixer, the kind of event where people like her called attention connection. She said Ryan had shown up by coincidence. I nodded, like it mattered. The truth was, she wasn't hiding her new alliance. She was testing me, seeing how much indifference I could simulate before it broke into reaction. She didn't realize I'd built an entire career out of not reacting. That night, she fell asleep on the couch, wine glass half empty, her laptop open to a spreadsheet titled Agency Expansion. I sat across the room, checking the transfer status of a new account I'd opened that morning, separate, secure, untraceable to our joint finances. The kind of clean start you don't announce. I ordered a set of packing boxes from Amazon, same ones I used when we moved in together. They'd arrive tomorrow. At 2 in the morning, I watched her phone light up again. Ryan. The message preview was short. Something about seeing her Monday, followed by an emoji that made my jaw tighten, then loosen just as quickly. I turned off the light, not out of anger, but finality. In the morning, I brewed her coffee like always, 1 spoon of sugar, oat milk. She thanked me with the tone you'd use on a stranger. When she left, she didn't take the mug. I looked at the lipstick mark on the rim, wiped it clean, and placed it in a box marked personal. By the time she reached her office, my resume was already in circulation. A different company, a different system, somewhere she couldn't reach. Hannah believed power was about control. For me, it was always about access. And she just lost hers. By Monday, everything had changed, quietly, invisibly. I'd accepted a position with a cybersecurity firm in Seattle. The offer came faster than I expected, double my current salary, remote optional. I didn't tell Hannah. I just started preparing. At work, Ryan acted like nothing existed outside the office. But subtle things gave him away. The too frequent glances toward my desk, the way his phone stayed flipped, screen down, always buzzing once before he silenced it. Every lie leaves a signature, and his were written in vibration patterns and late-night Slack messages. That afternoon, I submitted my resignation. My boss congratulated me on new opportunities. Ryan clapped my shoulder and said, "We'll miss you, man." His voice had a nervous edge, the kind that comes from knowing the rules are shifting. I smiled, told him I'd be leaving Friday, then wiped the system credentials from every database I'd built. No traces, no vulnerabilities. Just blank code where my work used to live. At home, Hannah was in the living room watching a series on HBO Max, pretending to be relaxed. The flicker of the screen reflected in her wine glass like a heartbeat. She mentioned that Ryan had offered to help with a PR campaign for one of her clients. The pause she left afterward wasn't casual, it was bait. I didn't take it. I just said, "Sounds productive," and went upstairs to finish packing. The boxes from Amazon were stacked neatly by the door. Inside them, essentials, documents, a few personal items. The rest didn't matter. When I sealed the last one, I realized the apartment no longer smelled like us. It smelled like static, like something once alive but now archived. That night, she came to bed late. She didn't touch me. She didn't have to. Silence is its own confession. At 4 a.m., I scheduled a change of address form online, transferred utilities, and set the Tesla's GPS to the address of my new apartment, 3 towns away. When Hannah woke, she asked why I was up so early. I told her I was updating my environment. She smiled, half asleep, thinking I meant the software. By the time she checked her phone, I was already on the highway, watching the city fade in the rearview mirror. She'd wanted distance. I gave her permanence. The drive felt lighter than I expected. No luggage beyond the essentials, no texts asking where I was. Just the steady hum of the Tesla and the highway stretching into clean horizon. The silence wasn't empty anymore, it was oxygen. By the time the sun rose over the interstate, I'd stopped checking the mirrors. Some endings don't require witnesses. I reached the new apartment before noon. Minimalist place, top floor, nothing fancy. A blank slate. I unpacked the boxes methodically. Laptop, coffee mug, files, a photo of the ocean I'd taken years ago. No pictures of Hannah. No shared memories. The apartment was intentionally anonymous, a controlled environment with no history to rewrite. Around 3, my phone lit up with her name. Then again. Then a voicemail. Her voice was calm at first, then clipped. She said she didn't understand why the utilities were in her name alone now, or why our joint email returned an error. She said she felt like I was overreacting. I deleted the message mid-sentence. Reaction was her territory. Precision was mine. That evening, I logged into LinkedIn and updated my profile. Cybersecurity consultant, Seattle. Within an hour, Ryan viewed it. Then Hannah. The timing almost made me laugh. She'd always said perception was everything. Now perception was all she had left. At night, I sat on the balcony, watching city lights blink in rhythm with my thoughts. I didn't feel revenge, just reset. I poured myself a drink, opened my laptop, and built a new encrypted drive labeled life_2. 0, no backups, no restoration points. 2 days later, a message from Hannah appeared in my inbox. She wrote that we should talk like adults, that she didn't mean to hurt me, that she just needed space. I stared at the email for a full minute, then clicked archive. Her words vanished like cached data. Outside, rain hit the glass in even patterns, predictable, steady. I used to think security meant preventing loss. Now I knew it meant accepting what's already gone. For the first time in years, I felt no need to monitor, no urge to check for breaches. I'd secured the system. The threat wasn't external anymore. It was simply offline. 3 weeks passed before I saw her name again. It appeared in a company-wide thread from my new employer, an announcement about a cross-partnership project between our PR department and her media firm. The irony hit hard, quiet but sharp. Hannah had built a career on visibility, and now our worlds overlapped again by coincidence or fate, depending on how poetic you want it to be. She was listed as the lead PR strategist. Ryan's name was below hers, assistant consultant. It felt almost designed, like the universe testing whether I'd really detached. I didn't reply to the email, didn't acknowledge it at all. But that night, I caught myself scrolling through the project directory, staring at their names side by side. Old reflex. I closed the screen before it turned into habit. 2 days later, a meeting invite appeared on my calendar. Integration brief. Thursday, 10 a.m. My department, her department, one shared conference call. The system didn't ask if I wanted to attend. It just scheduled it, efficient as code. Thursday came fast. I joined the call early, muted, camera off. Hannah's voice came through first, confident, rehearsed, steady. Then Ryan's, eager, layered with forced enthusiasm. When my turn came to introduce myself, I spoke with the same calm precision I used to dismantle firewalls. She paused, just for a second, long enough to know she'd recognize the voice. But she didn't mention it. Professionals, after all. After the meeting, she sent a message to my company inbox. One line. Didn't expect to see your name pop up. No punctuation, no warmth. I replied hours later. It's a small industry. That night, I didn't think about her voice or her tone. I thought about timing. About how people like her rely on reaction to prove existence. My silence was more effective than any argument. She posted a photo the next day, standing at Target, coffee in hand, captioned, "Resetting my space." The kind of performative piece people broadcast when they're anything but calm. I recognized the look in her eyes, that flicker of confusion when control stops working. I scrolled past it, logged off, and backed up my new system to an external drive. The project would end in 2 months. That was fine. I'd already built a new perimeter, one she'd never breach again. 2 weeks later, Hannah broke the silence. She sent a message through LinkedIn, short and deliberate. I didn't mean for things to end this way. Can we talk? The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who had once lived for face-to-face persuasion was now reduced to digital outreach. I didn't answer immediately. I let the message sit unread long enough for the little scene notification to haunt her screen. Then I archived it. Some messages deserve to die quietly in the cloud. At work, the joint project moved forward. Our interactions stayed professional, on paper, at least. But there was an energy in every exchange, something brittle under the surface. She'd overcompensate with polite enthusiasm during meetings, trying to prove the distance didn't affect her. It did. You could hear it in the tremor she fought to hide whenever my name appeared in a sentence. Ryan was different, less confident now. He'd been promoted too fast, burned through his novelty. Every time he spoke, it sounded like someone trying to remember his lines. I knew that tone. It was the sound of someone realizing he'd been a placeholder in a story that had already ended. One afternoon, after another meeting wrapped, Hannah lingered on the video call. Everyone else logged off. She stayed, pretending to check a document. Then she said, "You look different." I didn't respond. She filled the silence herself. More focused. Her voice carried something between admiration and regret. I closed the call without a word. That was the conversation she'd earned. That evening, I went to Best Buy again. Bought a new monitor, a quiet upgrade to match the life I'd built since she pressed pause. As I carried it to my car, I realized how perfect that moment was. Me walking forward with something new, her still trying to reboot what she'd already deleted. Back home, I set up the monitor, clean, efficient, flawless. The reflection of the screen caught my face in a way I hadn't seen in months. Clear, unbothered. I poured a drink, sat down, and watched the city lights flicker through the glass. She'd used proximity to prove control. I'd used absence to prove truth. And truth, unlike emotion, never needed to be explained. By the end of the month, the project wrapped. Her company sent a thank you email filled with neutral phrases: great collaboration, mutual respect, continued partnership. All the corporate language people use to bury tension under civility. She signed it herself. Best, Hannah Reed. Still using my last name. I didn't respond. Some signatures carry expiration dates they refuse to admit. 2 days later, I got a delivery notification from Amazon. A package I hadn't ordered. Inside was a hardcover notebook, blank pages, no note. Just the initials H.R. engraved on the cover. The gesture was subtle, nostalgic, calculated. She was reminding me of the early days, back when she used to write our grocery lists in cursive, back when small things still felt permanent. I set it on the counter, unopened. The past doesn't need rewriting. It just needs containment. Later that week, a mutual friend from the office called. He mentioned that Ryan had been reassigned, something about professional boundaries. The tone said more than the words. It didn't surprise me. People like Ryan always mistake chaos for charm until it turns on them. I hung up, finished my coffee, and went for a drive. The Tesla moved through the city without sound. I passed the same Panera Bread where she used to meet him. Through the glass, I saw new faces, same patterns. People trying to look busy while waiting for validation to text them back. It all looked painfully familiar. That night, Hannah called. Not a message this time, a direct call. My phone lit up, vibrating once before I silenced it. I watched the screen until it went dark again. Then she called back. And again. Persistence is a form of panic, and hers was showing. The next morning, I blocked her number. I didn't announce it or dramatize it. Just one quiet command. One line of code executed perfectly. At work, my manager offered me a leadership role. More autonomy, bigger projects. I said yes without hesitation. That evening, as I walked home, I passed a Target store. Through the window, I saw her reflection, not in person, but in memory, standing there months ago, holding her phone, waiting for a message that would never come. She'd wanted control. I'd given her clarity. Sometimes they look the same until the silence sets in. 6 months passed before I saw her again. It wasn't planned. I was at a conference in Denver, presenting a paper on data integrity systems. She was there with her firm, working the PR side, her world of smiles and champagne language. I spotted her across the hotel lobby, mid-conversation, her laugh timed perfectly for whoever she needed to impress. The only difference was in her eyes, tired, searching. She hadn't noticed me yet, and for a moment, I just watched. The same woman who once thrived on control now looked like she was running low on signal. When she finally saw me, there was no confrontation. Just a flicker of something unreadable, shock, maybe regret. She approached cautiously, said she was surprised to see me. I said, "The world's small," same words I'd used in our last exchange. She nodded, smiled like she'd rehearsed it, and asked how life was. I told her, truthfully, that it was quiet. She hesitated at that, like she'd forgotten what quiet felt like. We stood there a few minutes, talking about nothing that mattered. Weather, travel, work. Every sentence perfectly polite, perfectly hollow. Then she said, "You look different." The same line she'd used before, but this time, it wasn't about appearance. It was about distance, the kind that can't be closed by words. When she walked away, I didn't watch her leave. I didn't need to. That chapter had ended the moment she'd tried to turn affection into leverage. I left the lobby, got into my car, and drove through the evening traffic, headlights flickering against glass towers. Somewhere between the exits, I realized I felt something I hadn't in a long time: completion. Back at the hotel, I opened my laptop, checked a few files, scheduled a report for Monday. Work had become simple again, clean lines and defined logic. No drama, no noise, just precision. Later that night, I saw a new connection request on LinkedIn. Her name, no message attached. I hovered over ignore for a second, then clicked it without hesitation. Control is a system, and systems fail when they depend on constant attention. She'd built hers on perception. I'd built mine on silence. And silence always outlasts noise. A year later, I barely recognized the life I used to live. The new company had expanded. I led a small team, trained analysts who reminded me of myself before all this. Sharp, idealistic, unaware of how personal discipline becomes armor. My apartment overlooked the water now. Mornings were calm. Coffee brewed quietly while the city woke below. I'd stopped checking old messages, stopped measuring time by what had been lost. There was peace in routine, not absence. One Saturday, a letter arrived. Not email, paper. The handwriting was hers. Inside, 2 lines: "I saw you speak online. You looked centered. I'm glad you're doing well." No return address. I folded it once and placed it in a drawer I rarely opened. It wasn't anger I felt. It was confirmation. She finally understood what stillness looked like when it wasn't performance. That evening, I took the Tesla out for a long drive. The streets were quiet, late spring light bleeding into dusk. I stopped by the edge of the city, where concrete turned to open road, and watched the skyline fade behind me. The world I'd rebuilt didn't need revenge or closure. It just needed order. Back home, I logged into HBO Max, picked a film at random, and let it play as background noise. Once, that sound used to fill the silence between us. Now, it was just ambient peace, a reminder that not all quiet means loneliness. Some of it means healing. Before bed, I opened the encrypted drive on my computer. Life_2. 0-inch had grown. Projects, travel photos, a few journal entries I never planned to reread. One folder sat untouched since the beginning. It was labeled before. I hovered over it for a long time, then deleted it. The system asked for confirmation. I clicked yes. Outside, rain began to fall, soft and steady. The kind of sound that used to make her restless and me calm. I turned off the lights, leaving only the glow of the screen fading into black. She'd said, "Let's pause the touch," as if she could dictate rhythm. But I'd learned something she never could. Pauses invite return. Stops rewrite endings. And I had stopped. Completely. Quietly. For good. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories.